Welcome to Chaotic Harmony. My name is John.
This is Crystal. We talk about the joys and the challenges of teaching music in the elementary school classroom.
We share struggles, we brainstorm solutions.
And we would love to have you join us. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another week of Chaotic Harmony. We have a friend with us today. The Mr. Rogers is in the neighborhood.
Hey! Where do I live? There? Do I live there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one camera. It's like okay.
So we decided after wrapping our episode with Jesse that it would be best split into two parts. So you're going to hear half of our interview with Jesse this week, and then we will be back with the other half of our episode next week when we talk to you. Yeah. Hi, Jesse.
Hey, Jesse. Crystal.
Hi.
Hey, Jojo.
We're so glad to have you back.
Glad to be here.
How's your year going? Really well, right? Smoothly, no problems.
Yeah. I mean, there's some harmony, there's some chaos. What do you want? You know?
Okay. Well played.
Sorry.
Well
No,
played.
fair enough. It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So Jesse's been up to so many different projects. And
You're no longer at the same school also.
yeah,
That's
that's true.
That's right.
Mr. Rogers is no longer at Rogers.
Yeah.
Where are you at these days?
I don't know how.
I don't even remember.
I don't know how. I don't know how much we want to reveal about how the sausage is made, but have replaced one of a colleague that we all had from.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at Rosebank Elementary now in Chula Vista Elementary School District.
Mm-hmm.
Loving it. Mainly because I've been given an opportunity to do something with music that I haven't been given at other school sites, and maybe we can get around to talking about that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah. Always hard to leave a school site, mainly because you want to go somewhere and imagine you're going to be there forever, so that
Sure.
the relationships you build are good ones. They're not fake, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But when opportunities calls, you got to take it, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Did you? I remember every time I changed schools, for the first couple weeks, I almost feel like I'm cheating on my old kids or something. And it's isn't that funny?
Yeah.
We get attached, and I think part of it is a desire to want to build an authentic relationship, and there's not a small amount of guilt that you don't want to let the people that you love down, and so. How did that feel?
I
Was
went
there
back
an
to my
adjustment?
old school site
Yeah.
to pick up some things that I'd forgotten,
okay.
like some scissors or something.
Yeah.
Just don't go back for the scissors. Just leave them there. Go find those.
Were they good scissors?
No. Well, I went through the halls, and it's Miss Rogers,
Aw.
and then the word gets out, and then you have to address them like,
Yeah.
why did you leave me? Why did you? It's like, we didn't leave you. I really hope that you have a good year. Like, what do you say to it?
Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast about this kind of like the element of like you don't want to leave because you don't want to let the kids you had down, but in the same sense there's always kids to help.
Yes,
And
there are. And so at the end of the day, you have to make the right decision for you.
Right.
I think some of the best advice I ever got from my my master teacher when I was student teaching was two pieces, actually. The first one was don't argue with the kids ever. And I think that is also the best piece of parenting advice I've ever gotten. It's like, no, you just don't argue with them. Like, your word is law. Hey, you lay it down, and if they want to argue, you just give them the look. Like, I said what I said. And then the second piece was never make a decision for an administrator, because they are also people, and they're building their careers. And that, oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I've had 3 very distinct opportunities to make a decision because an administrator really wanted me to. And if I had made it for them, I would have been disappointed 3 or 4 months later every single time when they got a better job and left. And so I always made the right decision for me because I had Debbie's voice in my head. So anyway,
well,
that's what I was thinking
it's
about.
Funny that you say about not arguing with the students. That's number one, of course.
Right.
You had said make sure that you're leaving for you.
Yes,
right?
Always.
I do think that there is a number of times you can leave before your reputation starts to become the person who leaves.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I wonder what that number is. I wonder what that is.
Interesting.
That's an interesting.
Because you know how sometimes people will go and help others because they'd rather help others and not look at the work they need to do on themselves.
Definitely.
Right?
Okay.
So I kind of wonder if at some point somebody just leaves because they're always looking for that, grabbing that opportunity. But because it's hard to stay at one school site.
It is. It's a different skill set than going and starting a program.
Yes.
Yeah.
In many ways, it's then if you leave early, it's never, whatever happened to that school is never your fault.
Yeah.
But if you're there at a school site for 6 years, then what have you gotten? What have you been able to accomplish in 6 years?
That's interesting.
My pushback, as I agree with you, my pushback is the whole like element of number, whatnot. if your intent of leaving each time is a good reason, then yes, others might have stories for, oh, this person is the one that constantly moves. But if they're pure intents each time, I think it's valid. So I don't know if the numbers is the real game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that you're always allowed to do what's best for you and your family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, every time I go to a new school site, my intent is to be there as long as possible.
Sure.
And grow it as much as I can.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So,
And that's true until it isn't anymore.
Yeah.
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 So speaking of Rosebake, I've been able to get some support from an administrator like I have not felt in a long, long time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really glad.
The principal, part of it is because the principal has an interest in music.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's helpful.
That's super helpful. Yeah, because when they walk in the room, this person will grab a guitar and play in front of the kids.
Cool.
That's cool.
And I just try to go, I try to make him into a superstar.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to be a great musician as long as he has a joy for it, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
we're not trying to make master musicians. We're just trying to make people who want to have music a part of their life for the rest of their lives, right?
Right.
So to see somebody who's an administrator pick up a guitar, it's like, it doesn't matter what comes out. I'm going to praise that because kids, this is what we're hoping that you do some days.
Right.
Just,
And I think one of the biggest reasons why we hit roadblocks with our administrators is because they don't have that background.
Yeah.
I have been thankful enough to have had at least 2, if not 3, administrators that have had an arts in the background, not necessarily music, but arts. And so there's an appreciation for such, and that just affects the whole community, widespread. So that's really great that you have an administrator right now that understands.
Yeah. And his background is in performing and recording.
Okay.
Which is
That's
one of the
cool.
reasons why that's the angle he wants to go.
Okay.
So that's why there has been an emphasis on music production and rock band and audio recording, and that's
Which totally psychs up the kids, which
Yeah.
is great. I'll bet they're
Yeah.
super motivated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're saying so we focus on audio production. What are you doing exactly with the kiddos?
So,
Kiddos.
my goodness. So there's a underlining general music thread through the whole thing, right? You can't. I'm not sure that you can even or that you could do 100% modern band, 100% music production all the time. The way I like to think of it is, you're gonna approach whatever topic that you want to lead whatever grade level you're working with through, but that music production is going to be one of the ultimate goals for as far as products in the end. So if I have quarter notes, right, that we're trying to teach. You ever teach quarter notes before? You should try it.
Once or twice, yeah.
So if you're looking at teaching chord notes, I mean, how many different ways can you do it, right? There's a million. It's like a lens. What lens are you going to teach it through? Are you going to teach it through the lens of choral experience? Are you going to bring in an instrumental experience? Are you going to bring a music production experience? Like, what does that look like? So, once you get, so you show them a chord note, you clap chord notes, you grab a rhythm stick and you play chord notes, and then you pick up a mallet instrument and then you do a chord note ostinato. These are the things you do because you're building some kind of through line, yeah, to make this whole thing have a big bow on the bottom at the end, right?
Right.
Like, it's not just this is the concept, but this is the concept and this is the
In the
product.
application.
The application.
Yeah.
So why not introduce music production into that line, right?
Sure, yeah.
So we clap it, we play it, we grab the barred instrument, we play it, we're doing it on the ukulele, and then somebody is grabbing the MIDI controller and we're playing chord notes in the MIDI controller, or we're inputting MIDI notes in the length of the chord note, or we're using a chord note to set the tempo. Like, it's all chord notes, baby. It's all
sure.
chord notes. But
Yeah.
we just happen to drive through the music production world for a second.
Right.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
like, might as well.
Yeah.
And if we can, if I can color all of my lessons with music production, then it's just one more way to make it much like a full music experience, right?
I want to dig into this more. So what are you using when you're having the kids make these things?
So a couple different resources.
Okay.
The most important one is a digital audio interface.
Okay.
Digital audio workstation. And
DAW.
a DAW. And
Which one are you using?
I use when the kids individually don't need to use one when only one needs to be available. I use my computer and I use Logic.
Okay.
The heavy hitters, right, are Logic, Pro Tools, Cubase. Then there's a couple other that serve other purposes, like maybe you're doing some kind of live music production.
Sure.
But Logic is the one I go with mainly because I'm an Apple guy. This is not a war, but if it was, you would lose if you're not on the Apple side. But
Logic is pretty good. That's true.
pretty. So if I'm meeting kids to just one by one come up and work with, I'll just use my personal computer. If we're getting an individual to come up, they're going to be on my computer, but otherwise they're going to use BandLab, which is kind of like Soundtrap, but it's more free and easier for students to access.
Okay.
You don't have to use Audacity?
The audacity.
Oh gosh.
So BandLab is really, really an amazing tool.
Okay.
And there are many out there, but the reason why I like it is because it gives enough of a real professional experience without being overwhelming. Because
Yes.
you know what's the one that Google does? The music.
Oh, the Music Lab, Chrome Music Lab.
So I
Yeah.
love that.
Uh-huh.
I love
Yeah.
that.
That's why, yeah.
Yeah.
I did a lot of that online.
Yeah.
Because it's accessible. We're all working together.
Yeah.
For sure.
But there's a
Super
limit.
entry level.
Saved us.
There's a limit.
Super.
Though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to try to develop a real music production thing at the school, might as well give them something that feels professional without
Definitely.
being overwhelming.
Yeah.
And that's what BandLab is.
Okay.
Yeah.
BandLab is, you're going to have tracks and you're going to work with an interface. I mean, there's real stuff there that you have to do.
Sure.
But anyway, so we're gonna grab BandLab, we're gonna grab a MIDI controller, and then that's all you need.
Okay.
A microphone. There are a million other ways that you can bolster the whole thing. But if you can get an administrator to give you some MIDI controllers and a couple of mics, you can do everything you need to do.
So when you're saying MIDI controllers to the audience, could you elaborate on a MIDI controller?
Yeah. So there's a keyboard.
Yes.
And a keyboard makes all its own sounds. A MIDI controller looks like a keyboard, but it doesn't make any of its own sounds. So when I talk to the kids about it, I say to them, what's better, PlayStation or Xbox? And then once the fighting
Goodbye,
ends,
Nintendo. Okay.
once the dust settles and
Yeah.
maybe some limbs are gone, but it's okay.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Then I say, the PlayStation controller, when you just use it without the PlayStation being on, what does it do? Nothing, Mr. Rogers. I'm like, yeah, this thing doesn't do anything, right? But when you plug the PlayStation controller and you turn it on, then you press X and the guy jumps, right? The girl jumps. When you plug the MIDI controller in, it's going to control whatever game or program you have open on your computer.
Okay.
And in this case, it's the game is Logic, right? And this MIDI controller, it looks like a keyboard, but it's because musicians know the language of the keyboard.
Right.
So you're going to push a key, and then maybe it's going to be the note E, but it's going to produce, or it's going to control or trigger whatever thing you want it to trigger in a digital audio workspace.
Interesting.
So MIDI controllers are really cheap.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
You can
they
get
are.
them for $50, and then and do really a lot with them.
So for
and-
the cost of one xylophone, you could have 5 MIDI controllers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And when you think about it,
It's an
if you had a
interesting way to think about it.
classroom set of MIDI controllers, you have 30, maybe 35.
Yeah.
It's a significant chunk of change, but it's not
Sure.
$20,000.
That's true. Yeah.
And most of the kids have computers that are classroom set computers.
Yeah.
And they all interface really well with these things.
Interesting.
So
those are your primary classroom instruments right now?
So I'm lucky that Rosemake was already fully furnished, really. They have a bunch of Orff instruments. They have a bunch of stringed instruments that through the Opus project and through VH1 grant. But
Save Music,
that was one of the Save the Music. That was one of the things that I was able to I convinced an administrator that I would like to have and was able to secure was audio interfaces, MIDI controllers, mics, cables to the tune of something like $7,000.
Okay.
Maybe a little more, a little less, but that money is going to set us up for a real long time.
Definitely.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Which grade levels do you use it? All of them? Or do you
all
have
of them, man.
That's
all
great.
of them. It's
That's
the coolest thing.
All of them with the communal element, or all of them with the individual?
The communal element.
Okay.
Yeah.
So start them young, but then
start them
when
young.
do you have them use their laptops individually?
So third graders can pull it off really well.
All right.
So when you're teaching them the concept of quarter notes, they're actually writing it out. And they're making a song.
So
right?
yeah, so we'll hit the general music part of it in a very traditional way.
Sure.
With clapping, and either we'll do, it depends on the grade level. Sometimes I'll write an actual music note and I'll talk to them about a stem and that kind of thing. But at some point we get to a point where we have a DAW open and it's just a grid, and I have them input a piece of MIDI data, and you can just drag MIDI data to the length of whatever you want it to be. You can drag it to make the length of a quarter note, an eighth note, a half note, whatever. And as you drag and even copy them, right, you can produce a few measures of just quarter notes. So you're going to make a quarter note, then you're going to copy it. Now you've got 4 quarter notes, and then you can loop that. These are very, very easy to do things.
Yeah.
Like really easy to see. Very visual.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it's a testament to when you watch those people on YouTube who do the piano tutorials, whatnot, and you see them push the key. You're not seeing the staff notation. You're seeing a representation through the lights beaming out.
Exactly.
And so how much time do you spend on Western notation then?
So sometimes
20th century Western notation.
So sometimes I'll click the piano roll part of the digital audio workspace, where if you've put some MIDI notes in, you can change the interface to show you what it would look like on a staff.
Cool. Okay.
And that is like, hey, this is what it looks like in music notation. But then we'll go back to something that I feel is a little easier to not understand. It's funny because,
but it is.
It's like what's one of the more beautiful things about teaching music, and why it's so universal, is that it's universal because language is universal, right? Like when you learn Italian as a first language, it's not any easier or harder than learning English as a first language, right? It's because we're all you get introduced to these things on a very baseline way, and when the head is empty, you just fill it, right?
Okay.
So when you have music as a language, it doesn't matter like whether it's a shape or whether it's a color, or everybody's engaging with it on a I don't know anything about anything kind of way.
So that's
Almost
your
like
entry point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost like a kid or who has never learned language before. It's like bottle, dad, mom.
Right.
Like it doesn't matter what the symbol looks like, quarter note, or what
Right.
So music production is a really universal language component too. It's like this
it feels really applicable for them too, because they can be writing something and then they could use it as the background of a video that they're making for a science project or whatever. So that's cool that I can see so many different applications for arts integration in what you're doing.
Yeah, well, oh man, I have so much to say. So once there's a quarter note, there's a few quarter notes put in. It's just really easy to assign instruments to those quarter notes.
Okay.
So
you can make them sound however you want.
Whatever you want.
Yep.
Got it.
So the 4 quarter notes can be a bass drum.
Okay.
And it could go And then the kindergartners don't need to do this, but then I can just grab any other kind of patch and pull it up and do some kind of bass guitar thing, sometime a guitar thing, or whatever. And they've done the and then I grab the bass guitar and go da boom doom 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 da 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 doom 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 doom.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look what you made!
Yeah.
You made this song, this jams, get up! And
Yeah.
then we're stomping chord notes, doom 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 doom. We're clapping chord notes, whatever, with the stuff that we made, the music we made.
Yes.
Yeah.
And these are to me building blocks that encourage the improvisation stuff and the creative stuff.
Yeah.
That is so hard to teach with a regular instrumental focus of learning Western music notation.
Yeah, definitely. I think we get caught up a lot on that Western notation element because there's a lot of ways to represent it. Like, as ORF teachers, we teach notation not with this is a quarter, but sometimes we just throw lines, whatnot. And like, we don't need to just stick with the stems and the notes and such. There are different ways to represent it. I also think that's something that's really cool what you're doing is that, sadly enough, outside of the classroom walls, like playing in ensembles is not easy. It's hard for us to get together and play in a quartet.
Yeah.
But having a laptop, you can create your own music right there, and you're teaching students an accessible way to create music out after Rosebank.
Well, and it does the same thing that ORF does so well,
Yes.
right? You can get a kid to go, this is a chord note, and then if you don't have an ORF strategy that ends up in a song and an ensemble performance, then you're left with like, well, I hope you have an instrument you can play.
Yeah.
Because then what do we do with
Yes.
it? Right? So if you're in a situation where you're waiting because you've taught a kid how to read a chord note and write a chord note, but they're still too young to play an instrument, then what do? Right? Like you're missing the link to the creation part,
Yes.
which is so important. So it's not necessarily a replacement. It's just another lens, like we talked about earlier, right? Like you can do an ORF lens, you can do a music production lens, but the bottom line is you want to go further than just now you can read it, now you can recognize it, but let's create.
Right. Well, that's ORF process.
Right.
Yeah. You don't have to have a xylophone in order to be an ORF teacher.
Right.
You know this. Yeah. So, I mean, everything that you're saying, it's all process teaching. So it very much applies. You're just using different instruments.
There it is.
Yeah.
And the reason why I appreciate and enjoy the music production part of it is because of my own background and interest in it, but also because students, they watch their favorite artists engage with this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
that's, to me, some more of the power in the music production thing, some of it, the way that it's linked to 21st century music skills.
Yeah.
And the way it links to what they're hearing on the radio.
Yep.
Right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. And the cool thing too is that I'm sure when you're done, you've got something that you can download and post on Dojo or whatever and be like, this is what we made in music class today, families.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my partner, my VAPA one of my VAPA partners does a broadcast
Oh, cool.
once a week.
That's cool.
So guess what opens the news?
Yeah.
That's
like
really
cool.
our
Yeah.
music production pieces.
That's awesome.
And guess whose names get popped up, right? And it's not just the 6th graders or just the 5th graders
Yeah.
who are the ones who are normally at the helm in those situations, because you got to have some real ability to interact with the technology in order to make it successful. But
Yeah.
it's like Jocelyn from 1st grade, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like so cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah, I'm really interested in getting kids to hear themselves and see themselves at all grade levels. For lots of reasons, but for school, for community, for but mainly for our sense of, or to fight the fear that comes from live performance, right?
Okay.
We all seem to develop, because ask somebody who's 15 and never swum before to go swim in a big pool, and it's like, I don't want to do that. But ask a 4-year-old who's never swimmed to go, and they're like, I'm in. So when you can get a 5-year-old to sing and hear themselves sing, then that helps to create or destroy that fear right from the get-go. And
It makes it normal.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's hard to do with a normal instrumental music program, is it's hard to normalize performance,
Yeah.
because performance usually doesn't come around until 4th or 5th grade unless you're singing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're singing, it's large group.
That's true.
So
That's true. And if you sing by yourself,
it's terrifying.
you fought for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're at a talent show
Yep.
and it'll go either way.
That's true too. So before we started recording, I asked you what you wanted to talk about, and you said what I really want to talk about is how the future of music education is not ensemble based. Let's go there.
When I started teaching at a high school, my first year teaching was at a high school level, and I was doing the instrumental ensemble stuff, orchestra, concert band, choir, marching band, jazz band. And I was working at a school that had 1,200 kids, and my I had so many kids in the program, right? And I ended up asking a master teacher of mine at the time, like, how many kids should I have, right? Because I'm my first year, the world hasn't beaten me down yet,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm gonna get everybody,
Yeah. Right.
like every single kid. And the teachers too. We're gonna make a teacher ensemble. And so then I asked my master teacher, like, what's my goal? Am I doing good if I've got half the kids? Am I doing good if I've got 75% of the kids? Like, where, help me here. And he said, man, if you get 10% of the kids.
Right.
And I went, 10%?
Yeah.
Like, that's awful.
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, And that's like, yeah, you're doing great, man. You're doing great. And I'm thinking, in a world where 10% is great, like what kind of a bar are we setting for ourselves? Anyway, incidentally, I got to 10%.
Okay.
And so my school had 1,200 kids, and I had 120 kids across all my classes. So that meant my choir was only 40 kids.
Okay.
That meant my concert band was only 30 kids. My orchestra was only 40 kids, you know?
Yeah.
And then my marching band kids were made up of all the concert band kids. And my jazz band kids were made up of all the, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
because I only had 120 kids. But I felt like, okay, I did it. I reached the goal. So how does this apply? Or, you know, to get back on track of the conversation.
Sure.
We shouldn't strive for 10%. 10% of the school's population is a really easy way to make it so that that if it comes down to it, let's just drop the music program, right? Because what if only 10% of the population is going to scream, then who cares?
Right.
But if you can capture something like 40, 50, 60%, and then it's like, maybe we should just cut the music program. And then 50 or 60% of the population goes, wait, you can't cut that. Then it's like, yeah, you can't cut it.
You
right?
think it's an advocacy tool then?
It's not only as advocacy, but it's job security.
Job security.
Very much so.
It remaining relevant to like how many community bands do we even have anymore? I feel like maybe this is just because we're in San Diego, but it's like it's genuinely difficult to find a community ensemble to be a part of. I've had a time. Yeah. Just trying to find somewhere to make music. The thing about it that I want to understand more of is my immediate reaction is a little bit of sad, because for me, band and choir was where I belonged. And so I'm just wondering, how do we make that safe place, that sense of belonging that is really important for a lot of kids who, like the ones that hang out in the arts department. And I already have those in elementary school. You know, they're the ones who show up before and after school. They want to help clean stuff. Like, how do we make that for them without the traditional ensemble?
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not about removing the traditional ensemble.
Okay.
Right? So what it should be is, if you can capture 10% of your population with an instrumental music department, then bring somebody else on to capture the 20 more percent.
Got it.
With a choral program.
Okay.
Bring somebody else on to capture another. If you only have one person, then do what you can to capture the most kiddos.
Sure.
But a lot of people have opportunity to have more than one, and if that's the case, then you all are welcome. What I should have done at that high school was I should have done one traditional ensemble of like either concert band or orchestra, and then I should have done a rock band, or I should have done a music production thing, or I should have done something that was more what kids hear their pop artists and stars doing.
Yeah.
I should have done guitar, the guitar class, whatever.
Yeah.
To lean in so hard on a concert band. No, I'm gonna make a concert band, and it's gonna. In fact, I'm gonna work 5 years to have a beginning class and an intermediate class and an advanced class through a 4-year, track path for the trumpet player. Like, I think I'm just
right.
I'm not. It's not about dreaming, because we can dream and try to achieve our goals, but
sure.
it's giving myself a really tall order, and either it's gonna work and I'm gonna feel good and I'm gonna have succeeded, or it's not. And I don't want anybody in our profession to go for something and it just not work, because that's really hard to come back from.
Yeah.
I want people in our profession to have a really good shot at success. And I think it's about doing more than just the instrumental program.
Well, and in both scenarios of the reaction that you just described, it centers the teacher's feelings and not the experience of the students. Yeah.
And so at Rosebank, what am I trying to do? I'm not getting rid of the strings, because I think that would get rid of 10% of the people that wanted to do that.
Yeah.
Right. So the strings are staying, but the strings are also not getting 100% of my attention. It's not because they don't deserve it, but because I can't put 100% of my effort into something that's capturing 10% of the people. I have to put.
And you're one person.
And I'm one person.
Yeah.
So it's after school, Tuesday, Thursday. I have a rock band. My rock bands are on Mondays, right? I have music production. My music production is interwoven through my general music program. So it's like at some point, as many people as I can grab are being grabbed by music at the campus, so that if anybody asked, what are you doing? How's it going? Or asked a kid, do you like that guy? It's, yeah, he teaches trumpet, I'm not really into that. Or like, oh yeah, he did that thing that I really liked because at some point I offered them something that interested them.
I think about this. You know Benjamin Zander?
No.
It was one of the first TED Talks I watched. He was talking. He's an English conductor. He was talking about helping the audience understand classical music better. And it was, one of his notions was very similar. He was talking about how a lot of like classical musicians, like, oh, if we can only just increase the amount of people who like classical music up by 1%, we'll have succeeded. And it's like, his notion is like, what if everyone loved it?
Yeah.
And what if we're just viewing it in the wrong lens? Like what you were saying. Like I agree, because I also, similar to you, Crystal, I really enjoyed my time in concert band. My director was phenomenal, and I had a sense of belonging. And but what if? But I think so many people are artistic and want to engage in the musical fields. They just don't. They're not connected with the element of band. Band, orchestra, choir. BOCs, as a lot of the Twitter verse likes to call it. Have you heard of Steve Giddings?
No.
Yeah, Steve Giddings is. If you are into pop music in the classroom, you should definitely follow him on Twitter.
Okay.
Also on Instagram, he talks a lot about bringing them in. He also does this thing called Hot Take Tuesdays, where he throws in a question that's just gets a little heated sometimes, but it's fun. But he also, in a similar vein, talks about what if we why do we focus so much on band, orchestra, choir when, in the end, unfortunately, there's gonna be only 10% do it in high school. 0.5% we're going to continue it after.
There it is.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's the difference between a varsity football team and a PE program.
There it is.
And we need to see the arts more normalized in school.
Yes, we
so
do.
if you're the only music teacher at a site, then you've got to have the whole school lens on, which is tricky because especially in an area like this, where we teach, there haven't been established music programs for a long time. So just the idea of a general music class as something that happens and is important as part of a normal school day is still not normal. Yeah. And if you don't see the big splashy performances, then what are you doing? You know? Yeah. So yeah, I'm wrestling with it and I get it.
Something I like a lot with what you're doing also, Jesse, is because one of my biggest critiques about pop music in classrooms is it feels so siloed. When people write their own music, it's often they're on their computer, they make the music, it's mine, and that's great. There's a sense of ownership. You're still making
it communal.
But you make it communal, exactly. It's something I love about the ORF process is that it brings everyone into the fold. Yeah. And that's something I feel like not enough people do in pop music, and you're doing it. And I'm actually, when you shared this with me like a month ago, I was like, maybe I should lean into this more because this is the element that it's missing, that communal element.
Well, you ready for this?
Maybe.
It's not about islands, right? We're like, okay, here's the orchestra people over there and the music production people over there and the choir kids over there. But my music production kids came in and recorded my orchestra kids for their October showcase, right? They set up the mics. They ran the digital audio workspace and they did all the exporting and uploading and stuff, right? And when it came time to make our album, the rock kids from like rock bands were doing some of the performing for the guitar and for the bass and the drum sets. It's like, this doesn't have to be each other on their own islands thing. This can be like, we're a department and the department is all fighting and working towards the same stuff. Right? Yeah. And we're not just like, oh, the volleyball players had their season. Right. And now it's basketball. It's like, no, we're all
phys ed here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. And it comes back to the drum that Jonathan and I have been beating for a while now. We need more people.
Yes, we do.
Well, and
more people.
And not only that, but like somebody needs to come around and just offer educators who have no idea how to get into this.
That's it.
Yep.
Like here's just you want to be able to do a little bit of this without working too hard. Yeah. It's like those ads you can't wait to skip through when you're trying to watch a YouTube video. It's like, can I just have 2 seconds of your time to teach you how to... Like, if you just gave me 2 seconds, I can make you a... But we need that.
We do.
We need somebody to come like, can I just give you 2 seconds of my time and make you a music production teacher?
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest
I would go to your workshop, Jesse.
Because... I would love... Oh my gosh, I would love to. I would love to run
seriously, that would be great because I think that's the biggest issue. Teachers already have a tough time understanding how technology works. And just I remember going to a conference where there was people trying to utilize, 18th century Western notation on, I forget which was, a music score, I think it was. And they had difficulty trying to teach it. And adding on that next layer of sequencing and also using a DAW, that's just, it's can get so mind-boggling. I remember also Thursday, we were doing Jumper for Heart, or Kids Heart Challenge, they call it now. And I could not be there for the first portion. So I said, this is how the soundboard works. And like when I showed that to them, it's like they got freaked out because they was like, oh my gosh, so many knobs and like faders. Like, just focus on these elements.
Yes.
And it's so daunting. And I feel like that's the reason why we don't have successful and enough successful music production in classes. We need more knowledge.
Yeah.
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 You know, when you go to teach things like form, it's really hard because you need to be able to have something that's going on in the background that's a great, like a great tool or piece of music, really, just to be able to cut up and move around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you can look at everybody and teach them something like a piece of Orff tune and say like, okay, this is the intro, this is the A melody, the B melody. Now, I hope you all know it well enough so that we can just cut it up and play with the form and learn about form and fix and try different kinds of forms out. The cool thing about music production is you can take a lot of these tools and they're already made for kids, and you can do things like teach form, teach melody structure, and not have to worry about creating the product, right? So if I talk to you about samples, are you familiar with like an audio sample?
Yeah.
So samples are really cool because they're just like 5-10 second clips that are already made of whatever. So it's like a guitar sample, a drum sample, and you can take these things and just drag them into a DAW and use them any way you want. So a lot of times I'll take kids, and this is not necessarily a lesson where they're going to be performing, but instead of trying to get them to create the thing that I'm then going to use to help them to teach form, it's like, let's just drag in a bunch of samples and let's move the samples around until we're going to get together or get through the form topic that I want to get through. One of the more successful things I've done with that exercise has to do with creating things that are wrong. So taking a piece of pop music, let's just take Dua Lipa. If you're out there, follow us, #Dustin. But if we take a Dua Lipa song like Levitate, right? And every kid knows it. It's the pop music for now. So you take it and you cut it up, which is really easy to do. And I just scramble it inside of a DAW. And then I take those audio regions and I just, teach kids how to grab them and move them. It's like, hey, let's reorder this in the way that it's supposed to be ordered, because you know the order of the song.
And then it's like a puzzle.
And it's a puzzle. And it's an audio puzzle. And it gets them to work through the DAW, and it gets us talking about form. That kind of thing is music production has so many powerful ways to do that, because the kids aren't responsible for the sound. The sound's already there.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had an Orff track just playing that kids could like
Mess around with.
Well, that's what I do. I use tracks a lot.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the beauty of using the Orff instruments too, is there's no tuning.
Yeah.
You hit a C and it sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting.
We talked about instrumental music. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Like getting kids to produce a piece of music is years and a year
Oh my God.
of
You
undertaking.
just suck for so long.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why the recorder gets such a bad rap, because it's everybody's first instrument. And of course you sound terrible on it.
You need the body technique to create the correct sound.
Right.
As opposed to a click and drag.
Yeah.
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 Yep. That's interesting.
I wouldn't want instrumental programs to go away, because
No.
Sure,
you
definitely.
don't.
They're important.
Yeah, because when Matchbox 20, or to date myself, when they need a trumpet, they get a trumpet player.
Yeah.
Right, and that
Yeah.
trumpet player records themselves,
Yeah.
and that's important. Like
Yeah.
I hope that never goes away.
Yeah.
It might though.
Right.
That's a very possible scenario with samples.
Well, people have been saying that since
I know
the synthesizer was created. Though.
But it's still possible.
It's sure.
It's a future that exists, especially as I think the biggest thing that I have. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
That's right.
But
I'm used to it.
no, it's because I think the thing that I feel like is this constant back and forth is the notion of accessibility and the notion of do we have the funding for it? And with laptops, do we have a powerful enough processor to run these programs? And thankfully, the programs are getting simpler and simpler now. But also, same idea with like recording samples. Like it's cheaper to just download a patch as opposed to hire a trumpet player.
Yeah.
So it's it is a future.
Yeah. Well, in a lot of ways, it already is.
Yeah, very much so.
Like if I'm making my own music, I'm using samples. I'm not,
Yeah, that's
but
true.
when I did when we finished our album, there were lots of live music elements to that.
So talk about your album a little bit.
Okay.
So, yeah. What are you talking about when you say that?
We so I told the students that we're going to make our an album as a school, and we're going to go through the entire process of it because I think that's a really wonderful process to take kids through.
Yeah.
So what it is it's every class makes an original song, and we produce that album and put it out to the world.
Well, this has been really great. We need to wrap up this part of the conversation, but I definitely feel like we've got a part 2, and we'll be back with a Spiccato after the break.
I want to take a quick break and thank my husband Bryan, who's been working behind the scenes producing these episodes every week on all of the platforms and on time. But you need to know that he is first a financial planner for Mission Trails Financial. Mission Trails Financial is a partner that seeks to guide clients in the journey to financial success. They believe that people need a financial advisor that aims to provide strategies for success. Mission Trails Financial helps people navigate investments, tax planning, and insurance. Imagine working with an advisor who isn't tied to specific brands. Mission Trails Financial has a fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interests of their clients by providing independent, objective advice. Their mission is to help clients accomplish their financial goals. As Joe Vitale once said, a goal should scare you a little and excite you a lot. Do yourself a favor and set up a time to chat with Mission Trails Financial. Visit www.missiontrailsfinancial.com or call 619-419-0238 to schedule a call. You'll be glad you did. We believe that leaning on professionals is how we get ahead. Check out the program notes for more information.
Welcome back from the break. And before we do Spiccato, let's just do the awkward left turn. Not even the hard left turn, just the awkward left turn. Thank you so much for watching and listening. It does help, though, if you leave a like. 5 stars, please. And be like this person who left a review recently, EMSEAKAY_11. I don't know who that is. But what they write is, Chaotic Harmony is such a great podcast. Crystal and John are engaging and not afraid to jump into the hard conversations. I feel that I'm actively involved in the conversations and find myself laughing and smiling along. Whether it's true or not, I appreciate you, EMCK_11. So be like EMCK_11. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, wherever you listen to your podcast. And whether or not you listen to our podcast on YouTube, feel free to subscribe. It helps make this community grow much more and to listen to some awesome people like Jesse. So
That's right.
Please do the thing.
Yep, and let us know what you think.
Yes.
And I have a Spiccato. This feels like this could be very useful with all of the things we've been talking about. I just have a pad of Post-it notes. Okay. How would you use Post-it notes in music class?
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Post-it notes would go well with some sort of coding game or decoding game.
Okay.
We were talking so much about non 18th century Western notation. Like there are ways to create, like how I could play drawing something and then having the kids guess to create some sort of melodic or textural response, and then you place them on the wall. And then you have them perform it, and then you rearrange it as well.
Yeah.
Have the kids rearrange it, and then have them perform the new piece of music. So essentially, have them create a piece of music. Just don't let them use non-Western. Don't have them use Western notation. Just mess around with it.
Yeah.
Copy pasta.
I think you can use it as an instrument, like the.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I also think you could take it.
That's another sound right there.
What?
Another sound.
No. I think you can use. This is the whole note, right? This is the half note. This is the quarter note.
So what Jesse's doing right now is tearing the paper so that you kind of as a representation of rhythm.
So a whole paper would be a whole note.
Entire post-it would be the whole note. Then you cut, rip the post-it in half.
That's a half note.
That's a half note. And then you rip those in half again.
Then you've got quarters.
Then you got quarter notes. And then, you do some rhythm exercises.
Then you do for the 2-card pickup and just...
And then you say, you remember how you were awful to me last week? And then you throw them all around.
Then they're just going to walk out, though. They're going to walk out.
I've used them in so many different ways, and one way that would work not just in a music classroom but in any classroom is sometimes I'll give everybody a post-it note when we have to vote on something, because I also have them vote on everything, and if it's some ideas that are up around the room on boards, then they'll just put their sticky note on whatever it is they vote on.
Yeah. So does everybody get a pad at that point, or just one?
No, just one.
Okay.
One at a time. I also have one of those. I have, it's like in a little holder, and there are multiple sizes or multiple colors. It's like 4 different colors. So I'll just give everybody a color on the way in the door, and then that's how I make groups.
Yeah.
Okay, all the blues get together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works too.
Making groups.
Miss Pridmore, he traded with Jason.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. Just seriously, don't make me talk to you. And then I always ask the kids, I'm like, okay, so you're getting my attention. If you want Mrs. Pridmore's attention, then I will intervene in a way that you probably won't like. So how about we behave in a way that doesn't require me to intervene?
Yeah.
Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they vote no.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they lose their privilege, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm so cutthroat. It's
Yeah.
awful. Yeah.
You have to be.
Yep.
You have to be. Otherwise, there's such a balance between being loving and warm and demanding excellence.
Yep.
And you can be all of it. But I think that that's probably the hardest thing about becoming a teacher is finding that balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, our 6th grade teacher made the comment the other day that becoming a teacher is just a constant decision about what hill you're going to die on that day. It's like, oh my gosh, that's so true.
Yeah. It's a moving target too.
It really is. It really is. Anyway, we do have a round of the week. Round of the week.
Okay.
So, I found this one on
I'll take the tessitura apart.
Yeah, excellent. A tessitura.
What?
Isn't that like a really, really high?
The
No,
tessitura
tessitura is the comfort range.
Right, of the song.
Of the
Yeah.
symbol.
Absolutely.
I think you mean coloratura or the descant maybe. All right, so this is from a YouTube channel called Musical Futures, and it is it's part of the chorus from Dynamite, the cruise song. So it goes, I throw my hands up in the air sometimes, saying ayo, gotta let go, and it goes on and on and on, and it goes on and on and on. Yeah, ready?
Oh, that was bad.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
What if I mess up the words?
I throw my hands up in the air sometimes, saying ayo, gotta let go, and it goes on and on and on, and it goes on and on and on. Yeah. I throw my hands up in the air sometimes, saying ayo, gotta let go, and it goes on and on and on.
Throw my hands up in the air sometimes,
and
saying
it goes on and on
ayo,
and
gotta
on.
let go, and it goes on
I throw
and
my
on
hands up
and
in the
on
air sometimes,
and
saying
it goes on and on
ayo,
and
gotta
on.
let go, and it goes on and on and on, and it goes on and on and on. Yeah. See, I thought that would be a really fun one for the older kids to get around going, because they know it. So, and it kind of fits with what we were talking about with pop music.
Yeah.
So thanks Musical Futures for putting that idea out into the universe. Yeah.
Definitely.
And we could, you want to try to chop it up a little sooner? Because you could get 4 parts. Throw my hands up in the air sometimes, saying... Yeah, let's try it, okay?
Yeah.
So I throw my... So one...
But help me out with the... So... Hey, you gotta let go.
And it goes on and on and on.
And it goes on and... I guess I should drop...
And it goes on and on and on. Yeah. Is my soprano a little uncomfortable?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Just go falsetto.
Yeah.
I know. That's what Jonathan asked.
I'm gonna do it.
Poor guy. All right. Shall I start us?
Yes.
I throw my hands up in the air sometimes, saying ayo. That was it.
That was it?
Yeah.
Darn it.
Throw my hands up in the air sometimes, saying ayo.
I throw my hands up in
gotta
the air
let
sometimes,
go. And
saying
it goes on
I throw
and
my
on
hands up in
and
the
on.
air sometimes,
And it
saying
goes on and on and on.
And it goes on and on and on. And it goes on and on and on. Yeah.
That one's better. That one's better.
There we go. We
Now I want
got
some-
there.
Now I want some naan.
Huh?
I want some naan now.
You want some naan?
Yeah.
Because it's
Is that just bread?
naan and naan and naan.
I mean, it's kind of bread.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Indian.
Mhm.
It's
Okay.
good. It's
Yeah.
delicious.
I guess saying just bread is a little.
I mean, I would love just regular bread too.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, bringing this in for a landing.
I would love just like a.
Apparently,
flaky
we're all going to
bread.
order Indian food now. I hope that you guys have an awesome week.
Question.
Thanks for listening.
Jesse, before we head on out,
Yeah.
I know you're going for a second part, but like, if people, is there anything you want to plug?
You're gonna give me an opportunity to plug anything
Yes,
I want.
please.
Sure am.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Classroom Composers.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where can they get classroom? Like,
So Classroom Composers is sheet music for classroom teachers made by classroom teachers, including me. So you can find us on Teachers Pay Teachers.
awesome. And if they want to contact you directly, where can they contact you?
Want my phone number?
If you want to put it out, otherwise, like if you want to just put it on socials, if you do use socials.
Yeah, you can find us. You can find Classroom Composers on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter.
Classroom Composers.
At Classroom Composers.
Awesome.
There you go.
Crystal,
Yeah.
where can they contact you?
You
if they
can
want
find
to?
me on Twitter at Finny Vappa. You can find me on Instagram at Mrs.Pridmore.
Awesome. And you can find me at Mr. Seligman, MrSeligman, on the Twitters, on the Instas. And you can find us at CH Classroom at all the socials except for YouTube. You know the drill. Chaotic Harmony Classroom is YouTube. And also, please send us an email. We're kind of desperate. No, we're not. But you can send us an email at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail.com. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
The Chaotic Harmony podcast is a joint project between Crystal Pridmore and Jonathan Seligman. You can find us online at chaoticharmonyclassroom.com. You can email us at chaoticharmonyclassroom@gmail and let us know what you think. Give us feedback about what you would like to hear in future episodes. We're on all the socials. Find us on facebook.com/chaoticharmonyclassroom. You can find us on Twitter at CHClassroom, Instagram at Chaotic Harmony Classroom, and you can even find our episodes on YouTube. Chaotic Harmony is the name of our channel. Special thanks to Bryan Pridmore for his help with production and equipment. www.pridmoria.com.
It's my fault. I just go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on and on.
That's how you should start the whole thing. This podcast goes on and on.
Hello.
Hello, Mark Kierman. This is John Seligman. You're on Chaotic Harmony Classroom, a podcast. Can you do me a favor? Right now, I'm with Jesse Rogers. Can you fire him right now?
I can't. We have some hoops that we got to jump through in order to do that. But if that's a request you'd like to make, we can certainly look into it.
Perfect. Also, we mistake of the week for you. You're still not here. So, but at least you're on. You're on audio. So we have that.
True.
All right.
Take care, Mark.
Bye.
Bye.
I trusted him. I trusted him. I gave him secrets, man.
I think that's fun. I think it's cute.
At least it's not like when my earth science teacher decided to use that song to teach about Galileo. It was bad.
What did you